Hey everybody, this is Charlie from Chadwick Optical, and today we're going to talk about the unsung hero of your vision, which is your peripheral vision and your visual field. 2020 gets all the glory, right? 2020 vision. My vision's perfect. I have 2020 vision. How much of your vision, if you're kind of a normal human, how much of the area of your vision that you can see is capable of 2020 vision? I gave you four options to choose from. You got A, 40%, B, 10%, C, 20%, or D, 0.004%. This one. Of the entire area of what you can see, about 0.004% is capable of 20/20 perfect vision. So what's the rest do? That is all your peripheral vision. Now, if you are kind of a normally sighted person, you have roughly 190 degrees of horizontal visual field. So what that is if you picture a circle, a compass, it's half of a circle and then some. That's 190 degrees. Now, it's not that both eyes can see 190 degrees. It's more like both eyes can see about 150 degrees each. And then there's a whole lot of overlap in the middle. That overlap is the area that both eyes see. So if you want to see how much visual field you have, you can kind of test it at home. You can close one eye, and as you look straight ahead, come in until you see your hand, and then come in until you see your hand, and you can kind of map out your visual field. Now, the way I typically think of a visual field is kind of like a bullseye in archery, is that the very middle is very dense, very high resolution, and the further you go out, the less resolution you have. And what the peripheral vision ultimately does is detects motion and color. So if you're walking along and you're in a white room and there's some black spot somewhere, your peripheral vision is going to detect that contrast and encourage you to move your eyes and look at that spot that's different than all the rest. You may have noticed that if you are looking at a white wall or any kind of space where you can kind of assume that it's just contiguous, you don't spend a whole lot of time looking at that. You use your eyes to look at interesting things. And your peripheral vision is good at discovering things that are interesting for you to look at and focus your visual acuity so you can see that area in detail. So that is the visual field, and it's way more important than you think it is. Couple examples. So one is you have kind of two opposite low vision conditions, one being macular degeneration, the other one being retinitis pigmentosa. Macular degeneration starts with your acuity and works its way out. Retinitis pigmentosa starts from the outside in and creates this very small high resolution tunnel before you ultimately go blind. And somebody with advanced macular degeneration is going to be more mobile, more able to move around than somebody with end-stage retinitis pigmentosa. So don't take your peripheral vision for granted. It's important. It does a lot for you, and hopefully this has helped you understand that. This chart we're looking at is the relative acuity as you move away from the fovea. Now, the fovea is the spot on your retina that has the most dense concentration of cells. And in that area, that's where you see 20/20 vision. Now, as you go out, the density of those cells decreases and your visual acuity decreases accordingly. Now, so this chart shows you 1.0 is 20/20 vision. Now, if you look at this chart, this is the number of degrees relative to the fovea. And you can see that your vision really degrades very quickly, right? So by the time we get to here, which is just a couple of degrees away from the fovea, you're already down to 20/32. And when you get a few more degrees away, now you're down to 2100. So what that looks like is that your visual acuity, as you know it, really occupies a very small area of your vision as a whole. And that is, that's kind of a truth that so much of the time we don't don't recognize the importance of, right? So if your visual acuity occupies this little space of your vision, what else can go wrong with your vision and you could still see 20/20? And a lot of patients with concussion, a lot of patients with stroke, a lot of patients with peripheral vision, field loss, diabetes, all kinds of different stuff can still see 20/20 vision. But what that means is that right here, their retina is clear. This part of the retina could be completely jacked up. This part could be completely jacked up, and the patient could still be 20/20. So it's really important when we think of vision that we think of all of vision and don't just hyper focus on visual acuity.